The Morgan household in rural Pennsylvania harbored a secret no one could imagine. While most families stocked up on groceries and binge-watched Netflix, someone inside the Morgan home was locked away in silence, not for quarantine, not for protection, but as a prisoner in the family basement. At first glance, the Morgan seemed like everyone else, quiet, withdrawn, coping with the chaos outside. The father, Greg Morgan, was a retired Army vet. His wife, Cynthia, homeschooled their only son, Michael, who had turned 17 during the lockdown. But something about their home was off. The windows were always shuttered. Neighbors never saw them outside. Deliveries were left untouched for days. And there were strange noises, low thuds, a muffled scream, hurried footsteps in the middle of the night. Then came the missing persons report. Rachel Delaney, a 24-year-old nursing student, vanished in March 2020 after leaving her shift at a local hospital. Her car was found a mile from the Morgan's home, abandoned, keys still in the ignition. Her phone had gone dark. Police investigated. Questioned the Morgans briefly. No red flags. No reason to suspect anything. But Rachel's sister, Erin, didn't let it go. She knew Rachel. Knew she wouldn't vanish. Knew something was wrong. And one afternoon, she returned to the woods near the Morgans' property. Alone, what she saw chilled her. An old storm cellar door, half covered in ivy, slightly ajar. A rusted padlock dangled from one hinge. Erin called the police. What happened next made national headlines. The police entered the Morgans' basement, expecting rats or maybe signs of squatting. Instead, they found a woman chained to a wall, barely alive, starved, eyes swollen shut, arms bruised, clothes hanging off her like rags. It was Rachel. The girl everyone thought was dead had been beneath their feet for nearly 5 months. She couldn't speak, not at first. Just sobbed, repeated the word Michael again and again. Greg and Cynthia were arrested on the spot. Michael, too. But then came the questions. Why? Why would a family imprison a young woman in their own home? What was the motive? Greg and Cynthia said nothing. But Michael, he cracked. He told police Rachel had come to the door asking for help after her car broke down. She was let in, given tea. Then something happened, he wouldn't say what, but his parents told him she wasn't leaving. Michael claimed he thought she was dead, until a week later, he heard her crying through the basement vents. He told the cops he tried to bring her food, water, but his father beat him when he got caught. A bizarre tale, but one the media latched onto immediately. Then came the twist. Rachel didn't just disappear in 2020. She had gone missing before. Back in 2016, as a young lady, she vanished for nearly 2 weeks. Police had searched for her then, too. She was eventually found, wandering near a highway, disoriented, claiming she had escaped a locked room but couldn't remember where it was. Doctors blamed trauma. No charges were ever filed. The case went cold. Now, investigators were asking, was it the same room? The same house? Had the Morgans taken her before? It seemed impossible. Greg and Cynthia had no criminal history, no reports of violence, no financial trouble, no mental health records. And yet, inside the basement, they found old restraints, dry blood, scratches on the walls. One message carved into cement with a nail. She won't leave again. That changed everything. This wasn't an impulsive crime. This was planned. As Rachel recovered in the hospital, the public demanded answers. Protesters stood outside the Morgans' home with signs that read "Monsters" and "House of Horrors." But the more police dug, the stranger it got. They discovered that Rachel and Michael had gone to the same high school. He had once written her a letter. Nothing threatening, just a teenage crush. She never responded. That letter was still in a box in the Morgans' attic. Investigators wondered, did Michael lure her in that day? Was this about obsession? Rejection? Or was it something darker? A psychologist assigned to the case believed the family had a shared delusion, a rare psychological condition where one dominant person, Greg, could convince others to participate in a crime. But then, something unexplainable happened. When detectives searched Greg's old military records, they found an odd notation, one that had been buried. Back in 2002, during a tour overseas, Greg had been investigated for the detainment and torture of civilians. The charges were dropped. No official reprimand, but that report included photos. One showed a woman chained to a wall. The setup looked chillingly similar to the basement. The theory shifted. What if this wasn't just about Rachel? What if this was something Greg had done before? Other missing person cases from towns and Morgans had lived in over the years were being reopened. More questions emerged. Then, during a routine evidence review, an officer found a hidden compartment behind a cabinet in the Morgan basement. Inside were 4 cell phones. None of them belonged to Rachel. 2 of the phones had SIM cards. When data was recovered, police found photos. Women, tied up, crying, different faces, different settings. None had been identified. Had the Morgans done this before? Were there more victims? The case exploded again. The FBI stepped in. DNA evidence was being tested. Faces were being matched. One photo was tied to a girl missing from Missouri in 2015. She'd never been found. Rachel, still recovering, told police she remembered one thing clearly during her time locked away. A phrase Greg whispered every night before turning out the light. One day, they'll stop looking, and you'll be mine forever. But before detectives could question Greg further, he was found dead in his jail cell. Apparent suicide. No note. Michael and Cynthia refused to talk. And then Rachel's nurse reported something strange. Rachel, barely awake from her medication, had whispered something that sent chills down her spine. I wasn't the first, and I'm not the last. Rachel Delaney was safe, but not free. The chains were gone, but the nightmare, still fresh. She woke up screaming most nights, said she still smelled mold, still heard the click of the lock, still felt Greg Morgan's breath on her skin. Doctors diagnosed her with extreme PTSD. Her memories came back in pieces, like jagged glass. Each shard cut deeper, but one thing never changed. She swore she wasn't the only one. The discovery of the 4 cell phones in the Morgan basement changed everything. Investigators found disturbing images. Women bound and gagged, crying, some unconscious. One with a name tag on her scrubs, Kimberly. That's when the FBI got involved. They started cross-referencing the dates, phones, and images with missing persons reports across state lines. Within weeks, 2 matches were confirmed. Kimberly Nash, 26, disappeared from Indiana in 2015 after a late shift at the hospital. Danielle Ward, 22, vanished while hiking alone in Northern Virginia in 2017. Neither was ever found. Their cases had gone cold. Now, detectives had proof. The Morgans were not first-time offenders. They were serial predators. And Rachel? She was the only survivor that they knew of. But something was off about Cynthia Morgan. She didn't fit the profile. No criminal history. No signs of abuse. Quiet homemaker. Bible study attendee. But when interrogated, she said just 5 words. He made me do it. Then nothing more. She wouldn't explain. She wouldn't defend. She just stared at the wall. But her son, Michael, had more to say. During a second interrogation, he broke down, crying, trembling, shaking uncontrollably. He revealed a chilling piece of information. He remembered another girl. Not Rachel. Not Kimberly. Someone else. A girl named Lacey. He remembered her face. And he remembered her screams. Detectives pulled records. There was a Lacey Hartman, 22, who disappeared in 2012 from a college town in Ohio. The Morgans had lived there briefly before relocating to Pennsylvania. Her body was never found. Just her backpack, buried under leaves, 10 miles from their old property. Until now, there had never been a suspect. Now, there was a pattern. And then came another twist. Michael claimed that Lacey hadn't died from starvation or illness. He said she was buried alive. FBI cadaver dogs were brought to the Morgan property. 3 days of digging. Nothing. Then, just as they were about to pack up, one dog started clawing at a section near the woodshed. What they found stunned everyone. A sealed metal drum. Inside, bones, scraps of fabric, and a rusted locket. The initials engraved? LH. It was Lacey. The case had just gone from abduction to murder. But here's where it got truly horrifying. Forensic testing of the remains showed 2 sets of DNA. One confirmed to be Lacey Hartman. The other? Unidentified. A second victim. One the police hadn't even known was missing. They were dealing with a family who had likely murdered multiple women, hidden them in barrels, erased them from existence. And Rachel? She'd narrowly escaped becoming the next one. Yet Rachel's memories were still fractured, until she saw a photo during her stay in the hospital. One of the girls from the recovered phones. The girl with red hair and freckles. Rachel screamed. She remembered her. Her name was Amber. She had been in the basement before Rachel, chained in the same spot. Rachel said they overlapped for 2 weeks. Amber begged for help. Rachel tried to free her once, but Greg caught her, beat her. Then Amber was taken away. Rachel never saw her again. Amber's name hadn't been in any database. She had never been reported missing. It was as if she never existed. Meanwhile, Cynthia finally spoke again. A social worker reported that Cynthia, in a haze of medication and confusion, whispered a single sentence during the night. I buried one too. Was it guilt, a confession, or something even darker? Detectives reopened their excavation. This time, they searched beneath the old barn. 2 more drums were found. Inside, female remains. One body fully skeletonized. One recent. The most recent victim had a shattered jaw, 2 broken ribs, and a familiar tattoo. Detectives compared it with the image from Rachel's memory. It was Amber, but that left a bigger question. Who was the unidentified woman buried with Lacey? No one knew. No one had reported her missing. There were no leads, just a dead body, and a story that refused to end. With Greg Morgan dead and Cynthia now in psychiatric care, the focus shifted back to Michael. The boy who was once seen as a victim was now under scrutiny. Investigators began to wonder, how much did he really know? Was he just a pawn, or was he more like his father than he let on? Then one final discovery changed everything. Hidden beneath a loose floorboard in Michael's bedroom was a notebook. Inside, drawings. Dozens, each one of a woman. Some chained, some screaming, some smiling, just before they vanished. On the back of the final page were 2 words. She's next, and a date, August 23rd, 2020. That was 2 weeks after Rachel had been rescued. What did it mean? Was Michael planning another abduction? Or was someone else still out there? Someone helping, waiting, watching? And if so, was the nightmare really over? Click the like, share, and subscribe button for part 2.